Everyone has a story, and here on Storyosity, we delve into those extraordinary stories that ordinary people have to share. With us today is Hannah France, a recent college graduate and a Peace Corps member ready to make her way to another country for an amazing life experience. Hannah is going to share her story about how she prepared for this life-changing experience after college and the many challenges she had to face during her preparation. Hi Hannah, how are you?
I'm doing well, how are you?
I'm great. The first question I'm going to ask you is what was your major in college and how has this major helped you in the real world so far?
I was an English literature major in college. Not surprising considering that's very similar to what my mother teaches and what pretty much everyone in my family has studied. In the real world, I'm not sure how much my major has really helped me, but a lot of my college experiences did. I worked at an office called the Center for Public Service at Gettysburg College, and through there I learned about all kinds of social justice issues, as well as I was able to run a program, Big Brothers Big Sisters, which taught me a lot about the community that I was working with and living in. So that has certainly impacted my life, beyond the college sphere.
So I'm going to go into the Peace Corps a little bit. So can you explain to us what exactly is the Peace Corps and what is involved with that?
Right. It's the Peace Corps is a volunteer program. You essentially volunteer to give up your life that you're living in the United States for 27 months. So it's 3 months of training plus 2 years of service. And you're placed in a country in some kind of sector that you're prepared for. So in my experience, it will be education, but you can be placed to serve in agriculture, or you can be placed to serve in, say, a health sector. And your whole purpose is to be a community developer in one of those different sectors in the country within which you're placed.
You said 3 months of training and 2 years of service. Could you go beyond that 2 years or reapply, or how does that work?
You can serve twice in the Peace Corps. I think a lot of people will choose to sometimes stay on and work for the Peace Corps office in the country that you're in, and they certainly don't discourage you from staying in country and finding a job there. They would really appreciate that because then you're really contributing to your community much beyond your service time. But they prepare you to come back to the United States. They have you prepare kind of a plan, and they have you assess your goals ahead of time for what you want to do when you come home. So they're pretty realistic about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to be a part of the Peace Corps?
That'll take a very long answer, but I'll try to keep it short. Going back as far as when I was a little kid, I remember my mom telling me that she always wished that she'd done the Peace Corps, and saying, someday, maybe when your dad and I retire, we'll do this. And I think that they're at a point in their lives where that wouldn't actually happen for them, but that always stuck with me as sort of like, wow, this is something that, ultimately I could regret if I don't do it. And then I had quite a few experiences, especially from college and beyond. I studied abroad in Rwanda for a semester. And that was very important for me deciding to do this. I went out, I saw the world, and I said, I want more of this. So I came back, and that's what I decided to do. I kind of flip-flopped a little bit in terms of wanted to do a 1-year program. 2 years felt like a lot, but ultimately I realized that 2 years is what you need if you're going to make a significant impact on a community. Yeah.
Awesome. When applying to the Peace Corps, there are a lot of things you have to think about, obviously.
Yes.
So what was one of the hardest parts about making that decision to join the Peace Corps?
There was a lot that was hard. Like I said, the time commitment is tough. You really do. You have to be prepared to leave your family, your friends, your life for over 2 years. So that's difficult. The process itself is very long. So I think being unsure of where it's going to take you, when you're going to get assigned, that kind of stuff, that's certainly difficult. Preparing yourself to live without some amenities that we have. For example, I'm not really expecting to always have, a flushing toilet in the house that I'm living in. So being able to be prepared for that kind of stuff. And those are changes you can't know ahead of time. You just kind of have to leave yourself prepared for anything. So that's a little bit daunting.
Yeah. Well, you just kind of touched on it. Actually, my next point was, what challenges did you face during and after preparing for the Peace Corps?
Yeah, there are a lot. It's a challenging process. Like I said, the process is really long. And to give you an idea, I applied in December of 2012. And I haven't left yet. So I actually hit that apply button after actually having to redo my Peace Corps application probably 3 or 4 times, because if you don't access it online after a certain number of days, it'll delete. And it's like 32 pages or something crazy like that, full of essays, and you have to go through your entire resume and describe all of your experience. I mean, it's a really long process just to hit that apply button. And after you hit it, they just kind of tell you to sit back and wait. I didn't interview until even, I think it was like late February, maybe early March of 2013 then. So it was, I mean, that within itself, being unsure, you know, are they going to want me? Am I a good applicant? You don't really know for a couple months. And then from that point on, you have to get cleared on all these different levels before you're even assigned a country. And then you finally can delve into that actual process of preparing. And they don't actually like to assign you your country until about 4 months before you're supposed to leave. So it's been over a year-long process. So that has been a challenge for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Having been around you a couple times, I've heard you talk about the different things you've had to do to prepare. One of the things I heard you mention previously was a lot of the medical stuff that you have to go through. Could you touch on that a little bit and explain to us how all that worked and what different things you had to do to be accepted to go to a certain country?
Yeah, I can. So when you finally are issued your invitation, which is within your sector. So when I was issued my invitation, they said you are going to be a secondary English teacher. At that point, they said I was going to Azerbaijan. And then you open up this medical portal online, and all of a sudden there's like a list of like 30 tasks. So it's like I've sat around waiting for like however many months, and all of a sudden it's just like, okay, now you have to do 100 things for us. And from that point, it really was a lot of medical clearance. That was most of it. The only stuff outside of medical clearance was really doing passport and visa applications, which is long and confusing within itself. But for medical, I had to get a full physical. I mean, it didn't matter that I just had it done earlier for the job that I was working in. I had to get full dental, like x-rays. They had to like measure the space between my teeth and my gums on like all of my teeth, which was the strangest thing I had to do, but it took forever. I mean, they had to go through on each one of my teeth. That was a little nuts. I had to go back to the doctor like 5 or 6 times. I had to fill out an entire health history report, which is like 20 some odd pages long. And then I had to hand that to my doctor. So I have this like giant stack of papers that I have to hand over to my doctor. I'm like, can you read through every single one of these and write okay next to the ones that you think are true? So the people at the doctor's office, although very kind, I think got very sick of me very fast. Every time I walked in, they're like, oh, you're the Peace Corps girl. And they hadn't done any medical clearances for Peace Corps there, I think, in quite some time, if they'd ever done them at all. So it was new for them, as it was for me. So that took a really long time. I felt like I was in the doctor's office like every other day for like 2 weeks or something like that, right around Christmas. So
yep.
Yeah, it was long.
After this quick commercial break, Hannah will continue her story by telling us a little bit about one of the most emotionally challenging experiences she has had thus far. Stay tuned.
I am AmeriCorps.
I am AmeriCorps.
I am AmeriCorps.
We're back. Could you just tell us a little bit about when you found out that your excursion to Azerbaijan, which was Hannah's first location where she was going to be sent, that was canceled? Could you just tell us a little bit about what went through your mind and how you felt about that?
I felt a lot. That was a tough moment. It was actually, so we have to do a staging event before we leave for Peace Corps, and that's in an American city. So I was going to have 2 days in Philadelphia before I actually left for Azerbaijan. This was about 16 hours or something like that before I was going to get on a plane for Philly. And I get this call from Washington, D.C., and I'm thinking it's just like, oh, someone from the Peace Corps calling to confirm my travel plans. And I answer, and I knew, I mean, as soon as I answered the phone, something was wrong, because the poor woman on the other line had probably been making these calls all day and was getting yelled at for it probably. And she proceeds to tell me in her words, your training class has been canceled. This is also April Fool's Day, mind you. And I'm just like, okay, what does that mean? Like, no, it's not. And I asked her to repeat herself, I think it was like 3 times before I actually got it through my head that, oh my gosh, this is real. So yeah, it was the day before I was supposed to leave. I had all of my bags packed, and all of a sudden it was canceled. It was really emotional. I mean, it's a matter of like, I'd quit my job, I'd purchased a bunch of stuff to be ready to go, and all of a sudden to have that sort of, you know, thrown up in your face. I mean, that was just, it was crazy. So of course I called my mom and bawled my eyes out for like 2 hours, and yeah, but then it comes to a point where you just kind of have to step back and say, all right, this happened. I've got to do something else. I'm going to figure it out. You don't sign up for the Peace Corps if you don't think you can handle that sort of switch and turn of events really quickly. So yeah, I just kind of had to say, I'll figure this out, it'll be okay, but it was really emotional. Thankfully, I had an easy process where I didn't sell my house, I didn't give up my health insurance. You know, I was okay. I can stay at home for a little while and it'll be fine for me.
Well, then you got, relocated to another country, but then didn't you say that also kind of went went through a little bit?
I had kind of an insane process, yeah. As my placement officer continued to tell me, my situation, for whatever reason, ended up being very strange and unique. So they then placed me in Tonga, which is in the Pacific Islands. So I had purchased like all of these warm clothes and boots, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna send you to a tropical island. Great. But I went on believing that I was going there for about 4 days. And then I got a call the following Monday from my placement officer, and they found out medically for some reason I couldn't go. I think it had something to do with, you know, on an island you can only import so many prescriptions, and they couldn't get something I needed. So then she came back and she was like, okay, we're going to figure something else out. And I had a couple different options. I could have switched to be in the health sector, which wasn't something that interested me or I felt very comfortable with. And my option for the education sector was Armenia, which actually shares a border with Azerbaijan. So I'm well prepared to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
It's a good things finally caught up and are now turning back around for you.
Right.
So is being part of the Peace Corps one of your final goals, or what is next? What else are you looking forward to after the Peace Corps?
Yeah, this is kind of a funny question. I feel like this is where my goals kind of stop. Not forever, but for me, I mean, this has been a goal of mine for quite some time. At least teaching abroad has been a goal of mine. So beyond this, I have this kind of rough idea that I'll go on to grad school. At this point, I would like to go into something related to education. But that's not set in stone for me. I mean, the Peace Corps is its own, you know, unique process, and I'm sure it'll change me. So I'm not, you know, set on anything right now. As of now, if I hadn't gone to the Peace Corps, I was planning on going on to some sort of graduate program in social justice education, which is kind of what I'm most interested in at this point. But I could come back and say I want to be a physicist. I mean, probably not, but, you know,
yeah,
it's possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm going to kind of go backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
Something I just remembered is that you said you actually quit your job to prepare to go to Azerbaijan before that got canceled. But before this interview, you were actually talking to me about how they actually took you back as a sub.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, so I was working at an elementary school, at the Strum Lake Elementary School. Awesome work environment. I loved working there. And I was working as an instructional aide because I'm not a certified teacher, doing like reading instruction. So I was with the Title I program. And I loved my job. I loved the kids. You know, I love education. That's why I'm doing the Peace Corps. So it was hard for me to say goodbye. And it was hard for the kids. You know, you want to stay out the year with them. So I'd quit my job. I think it was like March 7th was my last day. And then it was like a month to the day that I called them back, or I sent an email to my boss. It was like, okay, so my life has gone up in flames. Help. And she immediately wrote me back. She was like, all you have to do is fill out this form. You give a call to the office. We'll get you in as a substitute. So that's what they've done, and they've scheduled me a lot. They've been so understanding. And it's been so great to be back with my kids. I mean, they see me in the hall like, why are you here? Is your trip done? Are you back? I'm like, no, not quite. That wasn't actually 2 years. That was about a month in there. But yeah, I've been a substitute as an aide. You know, today I've been doing some testing with them, and it's been good that they took me back. I mean, I'm very grateful for that. Not a lot of people in my program had that, so.
Well, that is awesome. That is great that things like turned around for you and then you're able to get back on your feet. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. And for those of you watching, always remember to stop and listen to those around you. you might just find that the ordinary people you come in contact with every day are extraordinarily interesting.